Okay, hello everybody. I am Karen Bryla McNees, one of the dietitians at the UK Health and Wellness Program. It is wonderful to be here with you, fellow working parents, today. I do want to say that if our discussion today about nutrition piques your interest, there are some resources at the UK Health and Wellness Program that you can take advantage of if you want to explore nutrition a little further. And Azetta, I appreciate your kind comments about how practical and realistic and flexible we try to be with people when we work with them. And I do want to, emphasize that yes, if you work with us for nutrition, that's what you'll get. We will meet you where you are and find things that are doable and realistic for you. But a few things you might like to be aware of is something called the Eat Well membership. That is a free membership. It's good for 3 months. You can renew it as often as you like after your initial 3 month period, again, for no charge. And it's weekly online meetings, it's weekly resources, it's easy access to both me and our other full time dietitian, Vanessa. So it's a great way, no matter what you're working on with your nutrition or what your needs are, to just kind of keep nutrition on your radar and have a reliable place to find new and helpful information. We also offer nutrition consultations one-on-one. Those are also free and unlimited, and you can request those through your Live Well dashboard. That's also where you can access the Eat Well membership. But the consults are free and they can be done by email, phone, or by Zoom. So please keep that in mind as well if you'd like to talk about more kind of one-on-one needs. And then finally, right now we have going on, you may be familiar with this, it's called the CSA voucher program. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, where you basically buy a share of a farm and get the produce that farm produces from May to about November usually. So we give a voucher. It will not cover the full cost of a share, and you can get small shares and bigger shares, but it does offset a good deal of the cost for folks. And so we have unlimited vouchers. I believe they're available until April for any employee on a UK health plan who is interested in that. So that's going on right now. And again, you can go to your LiveWell dashboard if you're on a UK health plan to take advantage of one of those vouchers. All right. And after the presentation, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have about our programming as well. But transitioning to the topic at hand today, good enough, healthyish eating, and feeding your family amidst chaos, right? That is what about the past 10 months have felt like. I think we all understood felt like chaos before, but maybe our definition of chaos has changed now, right? It's a whole nother level, right? So we're all adjusting to that and things continue to change. And so I want to talk about how this is still an ongoing need for people, figuring out how to navigate feeding your family and yourselves during these kind of unprecedented times. My guess is that a lot of you are feeling self-doubt about how well you are doing in terms of caring for yourselves and your families. And that's to be expected. And that is something we're hearing from a lot of people. Parents are just being so stretched thin during this pandemic with online school and working from home, maybe taking care of elderly parents, just juggling so many responsibilities. So I suspect that, again, many of you feel like maybe you're just failing all the time at everything, right? You just feel like I can't do anything well. And again, that would not be, I think, an uncommon feeling right now. So I want to approach nutrition anyway today from a perspective that is relaxed and forgiving, okay? So that you can show yourself a little patience and a little grace. And I'm going to provide some guidance that is grounded in our current reality. Okay. So, talking of grounding, I want to put out some thoughts here today to ground us for the rest of the discussion. These are some kind of assumptions I want us all to try to buy into for the remainder of the talk today. All right. That if you are trying, then you are not failing. Okay. You are doing better than you think. Right? We are all always our harshest critic, our own harshest critic, right? So you are probably doing better than you think you are. Uh, It's all about expectations. And again, you guys know this in life in general, right? It is all about the expectations game. But so much of our disappointment and feelings of failure are self inflicted because of having unrealistic expectations. And we see this all the time around food because people have some very kind of strict and lofty ideas of what, good or healthy or clean eating looks like. And so they set expectations very high in terms of what their eating should look like. And it's inevitable that, again, you're going to feel like you failed if your expectations are not in line with reality. And then finally, I want to assure people there is no such thing as perfect eating. There was not before the pandemic. There is not now. Okay. Even in the best of circumstances, there is no such thing as perfect eating. It is all about doing the best you can in less than ideal circumstances. And again, I would argue, even pre pandemic, we were always dealing with less than ideal circumstances, right? That is called life. And we just have to deal with that. All right. So, no, there's no good or bad food. There's no right or wrong way to eat. There is, no diet that's best to follow, like Azetta, nicely set up in my introduction today. It is all about what's going to work for you, and if what you can sustain long term is what's important to focus on. Okay. All right, are we all on board? Hopefully we're all on board with these assumptions to ground us today. Good. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea of becoming a satisficer. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard this term before. It was coined some time ago, and it's a mashup of the words satisfy and suffice. Okay, satisficer. The bottom line is that you make a choice. If you're a satisficer, you're making a choice that gives you the minimum outcome you're willing to accept. And that is where we call that good enough. So when I talk about good enough eating, it's a choice that gives you the minimum outcome you're willing to accept. And we're going to explore that a little bit later. But what I find interesting is that there's actually something that's opposite of a satisficer. Those people are called maximizers. You may be one of those naturally, and you might have to work a little bit to become a satisficer. But maximizers are actually always trying to optimize their choices, trying always to make the best choice instead of the good enough choice. And what research has found about these maximizers is that they are actually less satisfied overall with their choices. And they have this really intense fear of missing out, that they always think, right, that whatever choice they make, it's not going to be good enough. They're going to miss out on something that was better, right? But from a mental health perspective, the research tells us being a satisficer is actually much better for our mental health, and it actually gets the job done, right? And that's what we're trying to do in our day-to-day lives, right? Not just with feeding ourselves or our families, but everything else. We're just trying to get things done and get them done good enough. Okay, so that is how I do like to approach eating, especially when it comes to, again, busy lifestyles and families. So what is satisficing? What might that look like in our nutrition day to day, our food choices? Here are some examples I came up with. Okay. You ran out of time to prepare dinner, so you swing by the store to pick up a rotisserie chicken and a salad kit. So here you still have a fresh dinner that is nutritionally balanced and affordable. Okay. So maybe your minimum outcome was that you're not getting something from a restaurant, and you're trying to find something else that you can cobble together at the last minute. This satisfies that, okay? Satisfies that, I should say. Uh, you are burnt out on unsweetened cereals. Perhaps you've gotten the idea that whatever cereal you eat should have no sugar added, which, if you love an unsweetened cereal, go for it. But there's not a whole lot of those out there that people love to eat on a regular basis. So, say you're burnt out with unsweetened cereals, so you shop for one with less than 10 grams of sugar, which is a totally reasonable amount of added sugar to have in a cereal. And by allowing yourself a minimal amount of sugar, you actually have more options and you can enjoy your breakfast cereal again. So maybe that was the minimum outcome, that you want to keep eating cereal for breakfast and not hate it. All right. So now you've given yourself options there. Maybe you wake up too late to prepare your normal breakfast, so you grab a granola bar on the way out the door. In this situation, maybe the minimum outcome is I need to leave the house not hungry, right? Because we all know what can happen when you leave the house hungry and you start your day that way, right? So yes, maybe it was not your normal, lovely avocado toast or whatever you make. You just had to grab a granola bar on the way out the door. But again, you have met your minimum criteria. So in my mind, these would all be examples of satisficing. They were not maybe plan A, they are maybe absolutely, not ideal or what you had hoped for, but they still get the job done and meet some minimum standards of what it is you're trying to achieve. So we talked about good enough. So what is healthyish? That was also in my title. What the heck is healthyish, right? It actually has a definition, and this term was coined apparently by Bon Appetit in January 2016, which I found interesting. But delicious, comforting home cooking that just happens to be kind of good for you. It's also made it into Urban Dictionary. You're a thing, right? A phrase when you make it into Urban Dictionary. And their definition is when something is sort of healthy. So we're going to look at some examples here in just a moment. But I do want to pose that a failure to embrace healthyish eating is what leads to food boredom. All right. And when you have strict rules about, again, what is okay to eat, right? Again, you have a lot of strict rules about, what's good and bad food or right or wrong ways to eat, then you get bored. And when you get bored, then you seek out food that's definitely not healthy, right? It's not even healthy-ish anymore. You are just going to rebel against eating, that plain steamed broccoli and plain baked chicken breast because you think that that's what is ideal and healthy. Then you're going to rebel and you're going to go seek out food that is really not healthy and feel out of control. Okay. So eating well is not an all or nothing proposition. And healthyish eating helps us find that middle ground, that gray area where we can both, pursue health goals, but also have enjoyment and variety and avoid those feelings of boredom. All right, so here's some examples of healthyish eating. Brussels sprouts with bacon. A lot of people don't just love Brussels sprouts on their own. They need a little something there to jazz it up. Maybe popcorn drizzled with some butter, carrots dipped in ranch, apple slices dipped in caramel, grilled cheese made with whole grain bread, and cheesy broccoli. Okay, so these are the kinds of things we're talking about, right? Maybe some of you are surprised to see examples here, but you will see, right? We are not trying to get people, to just stick with plain veggies and plain, or plain chicken, right? You are not a bad parent if you give your kid, some ranch dressing to dip their veggies in if it gets them to eat their veggies, or you for that matter, all right? Just yesterday, I was actually coming back from a trip, and I was at the airport, and my kids were with me, and we had smash burger. That was the choice of what to eat at the airport. There are not many choices these days, and so they had smash burger. The kids said, "Yeah, we want burgers and fries." I said, "Fine." Right? Personally, for me, I did not want to be eating the burgers and fries. I just knew that wasn't going to make me feel so good the rest of the evening. But I thought, something a little savory, would be in order here. So I see that they have this beautiful Cobb salad, but then you can order it with a little piece of like their breaded chicken. And I thought, ooh, okay, I'm gonna get the salad, but I'm gonna put some breaded fried chicken on top as my protein source. And I'm still gonna get a good healthy salad and all that, but I'm gonna get a little bit of that, fun kind of fried chicken flavor that I also want to, because I knew I wouldn't just be satisfied with the salad. So to me, that was actually a really great example of what healthyish eating looks like. Okay. Um, but the bottom line is healthyish eating is really where it means you'll eat actually eat the food, or the people around you will eat the food and enjoy it, right? That's the goal we're trying to, accomplish here with healthyish eating. It will actually be eaten and enjoyed. There's a lot of benefits, some of which I've already alluded to with healthyish eating. But like I said, it embraces moderation and enjoyment, right? It tells you that, it's okay to, add a little flavor to your vegetables. It's okay to put a little breading on your chicken if that helps you enjoy it. And those things don't necessarily even have to be, necessarily very unhealthy. All right. So it just encourages, again, a lot of variety. It encourages creativity and flexibility with meal planning. So again, I know a lot of times we're trying to work around other people's in our family, work around their food preferences and their tastes, and maybe you got some picky eaters. But if you yourself can be open to options, right? Like these things we saw with the Healthyish Eating examples, that you can understand it's okay to put a little cheese on broccoli if it means someone in your family will eat it, or it's okay to put a little, breading on your chicken and pan fry it if that will, create more enjoyment for people. If you can kind of broaden your definition of what, again, healthy-ish eating is, and see the possibilities there, that can help you be more creative and flexible, not just for yourself, but serving other people. Because I find that parents find that to be a really frustrating endeavor, right? If you are the one that's responsible for feeding your family and preparing the meals, and you're working again with anyone, who has a picky palate, or strong food preferences, you want to have as much latitude as possible. And we don't want to be self-limiting, again, by having these kind of unneeded notions of what is good or bad to eat. Okay. You can entice picky eaters to try new foods, right? That is the classic. That's why kids love dips, because you can entice them to dip the veggies in some kind of hummus or ranch or whatever, right? But yeah, so again, being open to these possibilities of what healthiest eating looks like can help picky eaters. And finally, I really think that good enough healthiest eating helps you clarify your priorities. Because again, if we go back to that Satisficer definition and we think about, what is the minimum outcome we're willing to accept, we have to know what that is. So we really have to think about what is important to us. What is really the minimum outcome that is meaningful to me? And that's going to look different for everybody. But it does force you to clarify that in your own mind. And that can be, again, a really helpful roadmap for moving forward. So yeah, putting it into practice. So when we talk about, what are the minimum outcomes you're willing to accept? I thought you guys might enjoy it if I tell you how I answer this question. Would you guys like that? How does a dietitian answer this question? All right. So I will tell you. If I'm making a meal for my family, right? This means usually dinner, right? We all do our own thing for breakfast and lunch and snacks, and probably most families operate that way. But when it comes to preparing a meal for a family of four, these are my minimum outcomes. Everyone has a good chance of liking it enough to eat it once. I'm not asking for it to be your favorite thing. I'm not asking you to tell me you would love to have this over and over again. I just you have a good chance of liking it enough to eat it once, or at least try it. Okay. I'm trying to put some thought into what do I know people like or really dislike, and trying to, balance that as best I can. But yeah, everyone's gonna have a good chance to like it. I'm not gonna sabotage someone in my family serving something I know something that somebody's gonna hate, right? I'm trying to be working around that. Whatever I serve, it has some redeeming nutritional qualities. I focus a lot on what the food has and not what it lacks, right? So, I think, and that's what we look at food a lot through that lens of what it doesn't have or what's not good about it. So I would encourage you to think about what is this meal offering, right? And if we can look at it that way, that's a much more positive perspective to come from. So, hey, I have some whole grains in this meal. I have some vegetables in this meal. Maybe the sauce here is a little creamier and has more butter than I would normally do, but this still has some redeeming nutritional qualities. I have fiber and I have protein, right? And then finally, my final minimum outcome is it has to be done in 30 minutes with minimal ingredients. Okay, so those are my minimum outcomes. Some things I will sacrifice, right? So it also comes down to what are you willing to sacrifice? I will sacrifice, like I said, some people's enjoyment, right? Like I said, they can't all be everyone's favorites. I have consigned myself to that, and that's fine. I don't take it personally if someone in my family says, this is okay, but I don't ever really want to have it again. That's fine. Okay. It is okay to say that in our house. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. All right. But again, you gave it a try, you ate it once. That's all I can ask. Like I said, I will sacrifice some nutrition, but I will not sacrifice quick and simple. So if you want to see kind of how that breaks down, that's how you can put it into practice, bringing yourself through that. Um, Now, what are your nutrition priorities? Again, that's the other thing to ask yourself, right? Because again, that helps clarify all this. What are you really trying to pay attention to, right? Is it enjoyment? Is it diversity of flavors, colors, and textures? Do you put a high, value on trying new foods and recipes, and introducing those into your household and to other family members? So just thinking about what it is that you tend to prioritize and what you value most when you are preparing meals. And you might also think about what are your nutrients of concern. I tell people, sometimes we are working with chronic diseases or special conditions people really need to be careful of. Or maybe there's someone with a celiac disease in your house and you certainly need to make gluten-free things a priority, right? But maybe some people are trying to, watch carbs and sugar. Maybe some people are trying to incorporate more fiber or plants. Some people, maybe with blood pressure, you're trying to limit sodium. So again, kind of clarifying, what nutrients of concern you're maybe trying to get more or less of, and finding your top two or three of those so that again, you can kind of have a little bit of a focus. And again, you can't check all of those boxes all the time, right? You can't, they can't all be priorities all the time. So you do have to either hone in on some that you focus on consistently or maybe rotate among them, right? Like some nights, like I said, I might have a perfectly healthy dinner, but it's a little bit unbalanced with a creamy sauce, perhaps, that I wouldn't normally serve. But maybe the next night it's different, right? I'm not going to have a creamy sauce every night. And I know that that's okay, right? So knowing that the things, you have enough variety of things you're serving that that's all going to balance out anyway. That's another way to approach it as well. Okay. Oh, okay, so putting it into practice. So these would just be some tips I would offer in terms of how to, again, lay the groundwork to be able to do what we've been talking about, right? Be able to really practice good enough healthy-ish eating. What are some things that need to be in place? Okay. First would be creating a general food plan. So I don't mean, on Tuesday we're going to have this and on, Wednesday we're going to have this, right? I think, if that stresses you out, which it does for some people that works for them, but some people it's stressful to lock themselves in and plan to that level of specificity. So just at least having a general plan of I'm going to shop for a few different meals. I'm going to maybe buy a mix of fresh and shelf stable things so that if I run out of the fresh stuff, I have some shelf stable things to transition to. I have, some components at least I could work with for breakfast and lunch and snacks, right? I know I have things that can be put together into different, small meals and snacks. And again, maybe I have a few recipes planned for dinner, or in a few maybe throw together meals, I call them, right? Where you don't necessarily need a recipe, but you could throw something together into a quick meal if you need to. So again, a general food plan. You got to shop regularly, right? If you don't have the stuff in your house, none of this can happen. So, we were just talking about grocery shopping before the ice storm. But yeah, generally, you still want to have a pretty regular plan, right? I'm guessing most families probably have a sense of how often they need to shop, how much they need to shop for each trip. But if you don't already have that, kind of set and somewhat of a routine, that's something I would encourage you to do, right? To know, like, hey, I got to get to the store. If I plan really well, I can go to the store once a week. Maybe if I don't plan as well, maybe I got to go a couple times a week, right? To fill in things I've forgotten or I run out of, right? But try to keep, lists at home for both yourself and other family members to, keep tabs on what you're running out of or what they might like to have in the house, or use, some of those shopping apps, through the stores like Kroger or Meyer. You can keep your list as you go and then just submit it when you're ready for your order. But yeah, lists are also a big part of that. Looking for healthier convenience foods. Now, Azetta is going to send an email out after this presentation today with a couple documents for you that I hope will help you identify healthier convenience foods. But again, these are things I call healthy-ish. And I always tell people just because it's in a box or a can or in the freezer section doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad choice. I think that's again, thoughts that we often have or what we've been told, but that's not true. And less it's true as food manufacturers are making, products that, meet kind of the demand for healthier convenience foods. We're seeing more of those options. And I hope that the resources you get on that email will help you identify some of those. Use a grocery pickup or delivery service. Again, this is a silver lining of the pandemic that people have been turned on to these services. There's more of them available. They're actually less expensive than they used to be, easier to use, more accessible. But I think almost every store has it now, right? Kroger, Walmart, Meijer. I've even done Aldi pickup. Whole Foods now has a pickup. So yeah, and if you need to take it one step further and even get it delivered to your house, I believe all of those stores have that option too. Don't lock yourself into a plan, like I said, too specifically, especially if that just, again, adds to the stress. Just give yourself options, like we talked about, right? Get some food in the house, get some stuff in there that you know can be put together into meals. Maybe, be flexible in terms of, again, what you make what night. I know some nights I thought I was going to make a certain meal, and I think, I'm just not in the mood for that tonight, And so I need to have an option because I don't want to go through the trouble of cooking something that I'm not excited to eat, right? Or that my family's like, we don't want to have that tonight. So yeah, being, knowing that you have backup options and some flexibility to suit preferences as well. And then finally, again, because we're working parents, right? I do want to emphasize the importance of involving other people in your household, right? Whether that's a partner or a parent that lives with you or children who are in the house, whoever else is there, eating the food, involve them to whatever extent perhaps that you can. So trying to maybe that creates buy-in, right? If people feel part of the decision making, they are much more likely to be receptive to whatever it is that you're serving and preparing. It creates interest, perhaps, which is, I know a lot of times people feel alone in being the food, shopper and preparer, right? But if you can get people interested in the process, right, that makes you feel kind of supported and less alone. It could be a great educational opportunity for kids, I think, to involve them in a little bit of grocery shopping or finding recipes or, again, just decision making about what to have in the house. And again, it helps you get new ideas because I feel like for, again, working parents, there's just a lack of creativity, right? When you have all the demands that we were talking about in the beginning, being pulled in so many directions, it's easy to get, again, into a rut. It's easy to feel that kind of lack of creativity about what to serve and prepare. So involving people and having more heads in the process can help generate new ideas. And the bottom line for all that is it helps you share the burden, right? If you are, again, the primary food shopper or food preparer, you want to try to, involve others in sharing that burden with you. I think that really would be helpful long term too. And one of my favorite quotes when it comes to food, anything in life, really, apparently this was Voltaire, I did not know. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, right? I think that really sums up what we've been talking today is that one, there's no such thing as perfect. And trying to be perfect means that you just kind of, don't get anything done. And that's not what we want either. We have to just forge ahead with good enough, get things done, right? And be able to feel okay with that. All right. So does anybody have any questions about what we discussed here? Does anybody feel like they already do some of these kinds of things for themselves? Maybe you feel like you already do a pretty good job with this. Okay, I see a head nod there. Mhm. Any new concepts or ideas that you heard that were surprising to you or that you might try to adopt?
I like the idea of just figuring out my priorities. It's kind of the day to day survival and struggle. And so I hadn't actually sat down to think about what are the priorities that should guide my decision making. So that was helpful.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Brandy. Good. Yes, I do think that's just an overarching theme here of what we're talking about. Yeah. And again, that's the thing with nutrition. Everybody really is so different in terms of their needs and their preferences, and there is no one size fits all. Again, it can feel quite the opposite if you read things and pay attention to popular media. They make it sound like there is a right way to eat, or you have to pay attention to this, or you should be, or you're not doing it right. But we have to ignore all that noise, yeah, and really just pay attention to what we know is important for us and our families. Lauren, we try to keep a well stocked pantry and freezer so that there's almost always something that can be thrown together. I know, thrown together. There's no better phrase for that. I think we all know what we're talking about. I view those kinds of meals as things that, one, don't need a recipe, and basically that I'm just opening packages and dumping things together. That to me is a throw together meal, right? Those are the meals that you have when maybe the things you planned or the recipe meals don't go according to plan, that you always have those kinds of things around. And I do, well, oh yeah, that's a good point too. Recipes have become more like guidelines or inspirations. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool kind of place to be in, Lauren. Um, and depending on where you are with your cooking, skills and your confidence in the kitchen, you may or may not feel that way. But for a lot of people who get more confident in the kitchen, they do start to feel that way, that recipes are more like guidelines or inspiration. And they can kind of go ahead and take liberties with it and put their own twist on it, which is a great place to be. But I do know, some people who are beginners or not so confident, might really need to stick to a recipe. Um, and that's okay too. Brittany, letting go of trying to please the entire family each and every meal. That takes the pressure off. Oh, I'm so glad. That's something that's really helped me personally, Brittany. My kids are 9 and 12 now. So I've had this journey here for a while, and I've been married for yeah, 15 years. So yeah, I've had a little bit of experience feeding, yes, different people through different phases of their life. But this is really something that's helped me. And what's interesting is that it was not so much the other people that was the problem in this whole journey. It was me not taking it personally that not everybody loved every meal I made, right? Me not taking it personally that, I spent time preparing something that we didn't really like, right? Um, I think for me, I just had to let go of a lot of that, and that made the process so much easier, right? Just maybe that's a little bit of that lowering the expectations, like we talked about, right? That's where all those feelings of failure and disappointment come in. But sometimes it's a little bit of a personal journey with this, again, to not take it personally, to really just be trying to kind of learn and be open to new ideas, new things, know that it's going to be some trial and error. That's a big part of it. Brandy, the kids love to help plan. Oh, we might end up with some weird combinations, but they eat. That's awesome. Yeah, right. And we're so scared of that too, right? Of just losing that control, or, oh, what if something, weird happens, or gosh, I've never heard of that before. No one's gonna like that, but kids are funny that way, right? I mean, they really are creative, and it's amazing to me. I've seen this with my own kids that if they come up with it, man, that it's like it automatically tells the taste buds we're gonna like it if it was their idea. So that really does go a long way, and I think it's great. I mean, we all want our kids to be encouraged to be creative, and it's a pretty, low risk way to do that, letting them goof around in the kitchen and come up with these new ideas. Absolutely, I have been there, Brandy. So that's awesome. But yeah, it can be hard. I know you feel like you want to control it, right? Again, that's the personal journey. You have to kind of, again, release all that and just be open to it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? That's always what I tell myself with these things, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? Yeah, the possible good is certainly will outweigh any negatives. Those are great comments. Good. I'm glad you guys took a lot of these messages to heart, and I'm glad to hear that you, do a lot of these things already. The one thing I was going to mention about the resources is that I will be sending. There are two documents. One is called the Eat Well Food Guide. It's a very basic guide to the kinds of foods that we want to emphasize in our diets and the kinds of foods we want to minimize. Again, nothing is ever off limits. We're not calling them good or bad. We're not saying always eat these and never eat these foods. It's just a guide to understand, right? What are the foods we want to eat more of and less of? And then the second guide is called the Lazy Dietitian Guide. Um, that's me. I am the lazy dietitian. I created the guide. But when I talk about healthier convenience foods and things like that, that is what this list is. It's kind of group by group of food type, um, kind of generic things you could look for, but also there's some very specific brands of things that have links and you can go and see them online, so you know specifically what I'm talking about. And they're things that you could, I think, easily find at Kroger and Meyer and Walmart for the most part. But I know a lot of people are like, well, I know you're telling me there's healthier convenience things out there, but what exactly, right? So we did try to put some kind of specific brands and products in there that I have used and I know I like and I have checked out, from a nutrition perspective. Again, they're not perfect, right? That's not the point. They're healthy-ish, all right? They're good enough, but they're the kinds of foods that could make the difference between actually preparing something at home or ordering pizza or getting something out at a restaurant, right? So they a lot of the foods will serve that purpose. And at the end of that lazy dietitian guide, there's like 2 pages worth of ideas on how to combine the foods listed in the guide into quick and simple meals. So I think you might find that really helpful too if you're trying to think about, that flexibility and what things could I keep around for a throw together meal. There's a lot of ideas on there for that.